Now look at this mess. I am gonna beat all the black off her. She know I don't play this, but Michelle, what are you doing in here? And why are you crying? You got your period. Didn't I tell you get your visitors someday, didn't I? It ain't nothing to cry about. Come on, get up. We can wash that off. Come on out of there.
You hurt me, Mom.
What? Who hurt you? What you talking about?
He pushed and he held me down.
What you saying, girl?
He hurt me, Mom.
Michelle.
Sorry, Mama.
Girl, who you done let in this house? That little badass boy from down the street. I always see you talking to him. Huh? I told you, you're getting too fast for your own good.
No, it was Reggie.
What? What did you say?
It was Reggie.
How you gonna lie like that? Huh? You let that little boy come in here and do anything he want to you. And then, if it don't be like what you bargained for, you gonna say it's Reggie? No, this is your fault. You hear me? You shouldn't have let this happen. And if your fast behind keeps this up, I'm gonna send you to live with your grandma with the quickness. Now, you hear me? Now, you get in that bathroom, you clean yourself up. And I don't want to hear another word about this. You hear? I mean, not another word. Now, go! You're gonna stay at Tawana's tonight.
I'm not gonna keep going through this. I'm not gonna keep coming in my room. I'm not telling my mama. I'm just not gonna put up this. It happened again. Just Mom.
What?
I haven't talked to you. You came in my room again.
What?
He came in my room.
Here we go with this T. Well, I mean, okay, you came in your room, then what? Then what?
He touched me.
Touch you how? How the fuck did he touch you now, T? Like, I'm really, for real, at this point, you really starting to get on my motherfucking nerves. Like, he is a good man. Here you go with this same bullshit. I thought we had this fucking conversation already. I don't even want to fucking do this shit no more. So what else, what did you want to tell me? Tell me. He touched you, what did you do? What did you do for him to touch you?
I didn't do anything. I was asleep. It was after y'all came back from the club.
You know what? Your dumb ass, every time I look up, you got, so last night when me and him came from the club, he came in your room last night, what did you do? What the fuck did you do?
I was asleep.
Okay, and then he did what? What the fuck did he do? What did he do, Chief?
He touched me.
Touched you where?
Touched me in the wrong places.
I'm sick of this bullshit. For real. This is a good motherfucking man. You running around all day in these motherfucking booty shorts. What the fuck was you doing when he came over here and he came out the room?
Why are you mad at me? It's your boyfriend.
You're my motherfucking daughter. You trying to take my motherfucking man. That's a problem.
How am I trying to take your man?
That's a problem. Why do you wear them little ass shorts when he here?
You bought him.
Okay, I fucking bought them. For you.
Yeah,
but when my man come up in this motherfucker, you ain't supposed to have him.
So you gonna believe, you gonna have his side, not mine?
It ain't got shit to do with size. This is a good motherfucking man. He paid his bills.
Well, I don't wanna be here, so I'm finna just call the police.
Oh, bitch, call the police. You can get the fuck out of my motherfucker.
Welcome to the Thinking Man's Templar. The place where we say one red pill life far outweighs a billion blue pill lives, and where the soldiers can come in from the war, remove their armor, drop their swords, and have conversations with minded men. And indeed, once again, I am at your service. It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you. And in today's reality, we will talk about how the single black mother allows her daughter to be abused, sexually molested by her lovers, boyfriends, even her husbands, stepfathers, all alike. And when these daughters finally confess what they've been going through, they find themselves the victims of even more abuse at the hands of their mothers, who don't believe what they're telling them, who fight them, kick them out of the house, call them a whore, because the mother has chosen a pedophile, a man with a sickness as a lover, a beta male is usually the boyfriend and not the father of the daughter, who comes in late in life and deals with this post-war woman, all the while he's having an attraction to a teenage daughter. And this is one of the things that ultimately destroys a lot of black women in the community. They become over-sexualized. They develop a hatred for men because of the abuse they suffered at the hands of these boyfriends and these pedophiles that their mothers invited into the home. And they also have a hatred for their own mothers, and just an overall hatred in general that a lot of black children, male and female, keep hidden. I've already made a video on the sexual predators in young black men, but I felt it would be my duty to also explain the other side of the game, the side that I've witnessed myself. My very own mother was a victim of this. She told me stories of how her stepfather, my grandmother's husband, new husband, used to touch my mother inappropriately, sexually abuse her. And when she told my grandmother called her a liar and began to beat her. And their relationship was always rocky, but my mother had the heart to tell me that when I became older. A lot of women have these stories. And in order for black men and black women to even find some type of conversation, we have to tell the truth about the abuse. We have to deal with our demons. A lot of women who are listening to this video can recall being sexually abused by these men. They've never told anyone, and the ones that have told, the first woman they wanted to tell was their mothers. And that led to them being slapped, cursed at, called a liar, and all types of names. And this ultimately destroys the spirit of a young lady. She becomes introduced to sex way too early. And she becomes loose, sexually promiscuous. She goes out into the neighborhood because she realizes her sexual understanding has been activated too early. Her childhood or her adolescence has been stolen from her at the hands of this abuser, this pedophile, this beast. And now she's already been awakened to her sexuality. And in turn, a lot of those young ladies go out into the neighborhood already hypersexualized. And they start to prey on young men to share their sexual awakening with. And the abuse continues. We look at these things in the black community as if they're normal, as they're just the way things are. But I tell you this, brothers, a lot of the women that I've dealt with in my life, when I spoke to them and they were completely honest, I'd be staring at a woman on the verge of tears or fully crying in emotional distress as she begins to recapture the memories of her sexual abuse. And a lot of you men can say the same thing. You have women confess that they've been touched and abused and beaten and battered. And when they went to tell their very own mothers, they were greeted with violence and disbelief. See, in the black household, in the matriarchal household, most black women don't survive, just as black men don't. But it's a different process. Now, I can't speak in perfect detail, but from what I've seen with my own sister and my own mother, I can tell you that it's an unnatural state of being. To have a house ran by a woman and with a younger woman, subconsciously that younger woman becomes her competition. Because the older woman realizes her age, that she's past the wall, and she's no longer attractive as she used to be as the young daughter may be. And there becomes a rift in the household. And a lot of you brothers who've grown up in these single mother households with sisters have seen this rift. It becomes a point when the mother and daughter be at odds and even turns violent. I watched my sister and my mother fight, fist fight, on numerous occasions over the smallest things, the slightest disrespect. My mother would be all over my sister. My sister the same. And it created a hostile environment for me as a young man. I would do anything to avoid being there, because there's no one there to balance it out. I couldn't, at my age, balance out such a violent, adversarial relationship between my mother and my sister. And a lot of you brothers can attest to that. And that was one of the reasons I left home so early, because I had to go and get away from that. Because being in an environment like that becomes highly toxic. See, that's what happens when fathers aren't in the home, see. I believe that you can't consider a household a family if there's no father. It's just people in a home surviving. We need to keep that family word intact as mother, father, and children. Not mother and children, because there's elements missing that destroy the cohesiveness of the home, the communication, the bonding, the relationship, the love. When the mother and daughter feud begins to boil over and become hostile, brutal, what the father would have done was step in, whether to check the mother and tell her to calm the fuck down and send her to a corner. A real man, not a simp, not a beta male who would back down and say, I'm not in this. A man who would step between them and show he's the boss, he's the man of the house, and that he's not gonna have this shit on his watch. And he would check the mother, he would check the daughter, and also protect the daughter from the mother, because the mother would be bigger and she can inflict a lot of pain and damage. So he'd also try to protect his child, at the same time calming his wife. So that this feud will always have a referee, and always have someone to call break, or someone to say this is enough, and enough is enough. And you two need to get your shit under control. See, in a black household without this man, this feud is allowed to go to the limits where mothers are even stabbing and shooting their daughters, and daughters are killing their mothers. There's a story of two young daughters who killed their mother and stabbed her to death because they couldn't take the relationship anymore. The mother's abuse, or maybe their arguments back and forth got too much, and the daughters both plotted and killed their very own mother. It's a true story. So you gotta understand that this relationship, when this daughter becomes abused, this path, when she leaves her mother's home, oftentimes these daughters run away early. They leave 16, 17, and they're out there with the young boys in the street, losing their virginity, becoming sexually promiscuous. Some of these girls giving blowjobs in hallways and schools. They get caught up in the sex industry. They become strippers and sex workers. Get caught up in sex trafficking because there's no one there to protect the daughter who's run from home because her mother turned violent on her. Because at her ripening age of 15, 16, the pedophile savage that the mother chose to bring in her home, because that's always the case, see, they never bring a man who has his own, where he can move the children into his home if he loves her that much. No, they always get some lowlife that they have to move into their house who doesn't have anything. That's the black woman for you. And their children become prey to this man. Me even having my own story of being a young boy and I was on punishment for something. I don't remember what it was. But I was sent to my room or something. My mother wasn't home. And her boyfriend, I don't remember who he was, or his name or anything. But he was watching over us, and there was a bunch of kids. I think he had his own children, yeah, and they were all playing outside, and me being on punishment, you know, you would go to the window and try to participate and, you know, talk out the window, yeah, I'm on punishment, you know. And I'll never forget, this man came in the room, and he slapped me so hard that I blacked out. He literally knocked me out cold. And when I told my mother, you know, I saw they argued for a while. And unfortunately, we didn't leave right away. But it wasn't until something else happened that we finally packed up and left. But she didn't leave when I first told her that story. It wasn't right away. It was like a little bit later. But it's no big deal. Me and my mother talked about this. But I remember they argued. It wasn't like she just said, we're out of here. We just got up and walked out. She needed convincing. She needed to, you know, get to the bottom of it, if you understand what I'm saying. Most black mothers really don't take the word of their children immediately. They assume you're lying because they don't want to lose their relationships, because these women know that they're usually never taken, but they have children, and they know that keeping a man is so hard and difficult because they come with baggage. Usually they'll ignore the pleas of their very own children to maintain this relationship. A lot of black mothers choose their lovers over their children. Ultimately, if you know this, a lot of children die at the hands of the boyfriend. Plenty of stories on YouTube about boyfriends killing infants that aren't theirs, children that aren't theirs, beating them to death because those aren't his children. Plenty of male YouTubers, you know, Tommy Sotomayor and others, have told stories about the boyfriend who's killed the children. And please understand that I'm sure these children have spoken of the violence or the sexual abuse or anything like that at some point, and the mother chose the man over her children, ultimately resulting in the death of her own kids. This is one of those dark tales that go on in the black community. This is one of those skeletons that a lot of young black women can attest to this. When they hear this video and they can say, I've been in that situation. I've been touched, I've been abused by one of my mother's boyfriends. And when I told her, she called me a liar, a whore, or proceeded to beat me down, or told me I wanted her husband. As you see in the other videos, the video with the young girl telling her mother that her boyfriend came in the room and touched her, and the first thing she wanted to say is, you're trying to steal my man. Or the other video in the beginning where the mother beat the daughter senseless. And when she told her that the man was touching her and calling him a pervert, and they all asked him, did he touch you? The mother still called her a liar and beat her even more. These are things that happen in the black household, in the matriarchal household. A lot of black women don't survive. They lose their identities. They lose their they lose their femininity. They lose their womanhood, their sprouting womanhood that they haven't even truly experienced yet. It's been taken by a savage. And it becomes very hard for that woman to remain virtuous, especially if she's been deflowered or had her virginity taken by a mother's boyfriend. That girl is imprinted by an older man. Now, when she goes out into the world, the young boys aren't good enough for her. She seeks older men. That's why you see a lot of young girls when we were in school, 16, 17, high school, middle school, always going for older men. Or sometimes we see these young girls in college and they're going out with 40-year-old men. These girls are 19, 17. Fatherless young women. See, because the father's supposed to be in the home to protect the daughters from these perverted savages. You understand? Because he doesn't have that sexual attraction to her, because that's his own blood. See, these men, these savages who aren't the fathers of these daughters, they see the daughter walking around and they look at her and they get a sexual arousal. You understand? And he goes and proceeds to go in her room or sneak a glance while she's getting dressed or while she's in the shower. And then from there he begins to flirt with her, give her looks. And this young girl, not knowing any better, she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know what to say. She knows it's uncomfortable. She tries to avoid him, but he keeps coming at her, keeps pushing. And until one day, the mother so foolishly would leave that man alone with her daughter, running errands, or something like that, going to work, because usually these men don't fucking work. And that man will try to go at her daughter. He'll try to touch her. He'll try to initiate sex with her. And when the daughter pushes him off or something, he'll say, don't tell anybody. It's between you and me. Right? And the daughter will feel ashamed. She'll feel embarrassed. Just like in the first clip, the daughter apologized to the mother. I'm sorry. Because she was powerless in the situation. But when she finally confesses to the mother, thinking that the mother would immediately take her side, banish the man from their home, instead, she's called a whore. She's called a slut. She's blamed for trying to seduce this man and get him sexually aroused, walking around half naked. Put some clothes on, she'll tell her daughter. That's your fault. Walking around half naked around my man, knowing you want my man. Stop trying to steal my boyfriend. Yeah, a lot of black women have seen that argument, have been on the end of those blows. And I'm sorry. But we have to get to the bottom of this single black mother conundrum. The fact that these women go without judgment, without analysis, without proper critique. So we make it our duty to put these things on blast so that these women think twice about what they're doing. Because we know what's going on in the dark. And to those savages that are taking advantage of these women, you deserve death. You deserve whatever God has waiting for you. And to you women, you mothers, you so-called mothers that allowed your children to be killed or abused just for the sake of keeping a man in the house. Just because you were that desperate, because you've chased away all the good men in your life, possibly the fathers of your own children, and you're just looking for anybody, anyone, to be a placeholder so you won't be lonely. That you'll sacrifice your own children, your own boys, your own daughters. You will sacrifice the virtuousness of your own daughter to keep a man. To all you women, you deserve the fate the same as that savage. Shame on you. To all you women keeping those secrets, taking them to the grave, understand that the thinking men, we know who you are. And for all those women who are abused by the boyfriends and the stepfathers and the lovers of their crooked mothers, and you haven't spoken about it, you need to speak up. You need to go find their mother and sit her down as a grown woman and tell her the truth about what was happening to you when she wasn't looking. And you let her know that she can't run from this truth. And if that man is still in the family, if that man is still her boyfriend or her stepfather, and he abused you when you were younger, and you're a grown woman now, it's your duty to confront that man and to confront your mother and let them know what happened. All these secrets need to be exposed in the black community. All these perversions, all these sexual deviancies need to be put on blast. The black community has a lot of dark secrets, a lot of incestuous issues, own fathers touching their own daughters. You understand? Mothers having this incestuous relationship with their sons, making their sons the boyfriend, putting their sons in the man position because they don't have one. This incestuous behavior needs to be checked. It needs to be confronted because it creates a sickness in children, a deficiency, a sexual confusion, so that these young boys go out into the world and they're sexually confused. These young girls go out into the world when they start to hit puberty. They're sexually confused and they don't know how to handle their sexual urges, being that they've already been triggered. And this is why we have the sex-crazed black male. Always got to get some pussy over everything. And we have a hypersexual black female turned succubi because she's already been introduced to sex as a small child. And when she confessed her demons to her mother, she was called a whore. And she was called that whore so many times that she actually became one. And she's proud of being a whore now. How many men have dated these women, dealt with these women, and you can hear them screaming out to their fathers. You can hear them when they're yelling at you. They can see the face of that abuser, and she's yelling at you like you're that man. These women who are abandoned by their fathers, having these hair trigger tempers. Whenever you try to correct them, and they lose their minds. You ain't my father. Because they're broken. And you've been the scapegoat of these relationships. A lot of men sat on the other side of this attack, not knowing where it came from. Well, let the thinking man tell you, this is what it came from. You see this shit all the time. These women go into emotional stupors, cold, heartless, no feelings. Sex is just like shaking hands to these women nowadays. No feeling, no emotion. They're empty. Because the spiritual connection of sex has already been stolen from this young girl. Her innocence has been taken. It's been robbed of her. And she's been betrayed by her very own mother. So this woman will never be the same. She'll be cursed for life. To probably never be a mother. To a hypersexual existence of men in and out of her life. She'll probably end up a single mother just like her mother. And God forbid the same thing happens to her, where she has to hear her very own daughter tell her that the boyfriend that her mother's chosen has touched her child. And then the cycle will continue. And we have another generation of broken women lost in the darkness, reaching for something or someone to repair their brokenness. But there won't be a man strong enough, or wise enough, or understanding enough to get to the core of these issues, because these women hold up so many walls that most men will never know the damage that has been done to his potential wife or girlfriend. And that woman and her demons, brothers, will ultimately destroy you and drag you to the hell she's been dwelling in since she was a child. It's a sad cycle. Another dark secret of the black community exposed by the Thinking Man's Templar. Once again, it's the Thinking Man's Templar, place where we say one red pill life far outweighs a billion blue pill lives, and where the soldiers can come in from the war, remove their armors, drop their swords, and have conversations with like minds. And again, I'm at your service. Thank you to all of those who subscribed, all of those new subscribers, and anyone that donates. And if you do feel the urge to donate to this message, the link will be in the description. One love, and don't forget, always cover your six. Peace.